It's called What Girls Are Made Of by Elena K. Arnold. I think it's only in Robstown. It's about a girl having sex with Jesus. And there's 2 books that I have found that describe having sex with Jesus, but you only have one in these, 3. Listen to me. Satan is after our children.
Yeah.
And so your listeners need to know Satan is after your children.
All right, Miss Bonnie Wallace, thank you for joining me in the den.
Thank you for having me.
So it was a blessing. I just met you a couple of weeks ago at the Liberty Pastors Patriot Academy in Comfort, Texas, right there by Fredericksburg. That's a beautiful place.
Very beautiful.
Have you been there a few times, or was that the first time you've been there?
No, I live in Llano, which is about an hour north of Fredericksburg on 16, so straight shot. You'll get right to my house, essentially. And I've been to Patriot Academy dozens of times, maybe even 100 times. So
okay.
I love it.
Yeah, it was an amazing time. I learned a lot about the necessity of churches getting involved in the community, getting involved in politics, as much of a bad word as that is in church. I've kind of determined within myself to say it more in church. Politics.
Good job.
Kind of like Mufasa.
You
I must
learned.
say politics, because I have always believed that that's where the enemy is going to play out his end time schemes, is on the political platform. So we have to get involved in politics, don't we?
Well, Satan is already involved in politics right now, every day, every school district, every county, every city, every state, and of course the federal government. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And he wants us not to be involved.
Right.
He wants Christians to be sitting at home saying, I can't be involved. Mm-hmm. He doesn't even want Christians voting.
Right.
And so we have to stand. Absolutely. We have to stand for righteousness. And when all else fails, we stand firm for righteousness.
Well, he's done an amazing job of making us think that we are not supposed to be there, that it is not godly to be in there, that we should not mix politics and religion, that there should be a separation of church and state. And we learned that few days that we were out there, for me, it was my first time, and I learned tons. And I was already kind of on that vibe, but it just emboldened me to be more direct about it.
Well, praise God.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens a lot of times, I go around with Patriot Academy, with Citizens Defending Freedom, with Recover America, and Remnant Alliance, and we go all around Texas, but also other states, and we do pastor engagements, pastor roundtables. And I have had pastors literally get up and walk out because they say, this makes me uncomfortable. This can't be right.
Wow.
I do not want to be engaged. My constituents do not want to hear that they need to be engaged.
What do you think it is?
Fear of man. Absolutely. No doubt about it. I mean, I can tell you, we're going to talk about this in a little while, but I've been to 158 schools to talk to the school boards about what's in their libraries, and they're paranoid. They're paralyzed with fear. So the only thing that keeps these bad books in the libraries is fear. Mm-hmm. Fear of doing something. But we have an audience of one. The one.
Right.
No one else here matters. And so when you ask yourself the question, am I doing God's will? Mm-hmm. Am I walking in God's path? It becomes very clear.
You know, one of the misconceptions about Christians is that all they have to do is pray to God, and then God will go take care of everything. And God, typically, for the most part, when you pray to him, he empowers you to go do it. And if you don't move to go do it, then it's going to go undone. He doesn't come down and just do it himself. He uses you. He uses us to do that.
Well, what does he tell us? To occupy until he returns.
Mm-hmm. Take dominion.
Take dominion and occupy. And so what are we doing? We're hiding inside the four walls of our church, many Christians, or the full four walls of our home. But we are not engaging. We are not civic-minded. We don't even know who's on the ballot most of the times. I work the county elections in Llano, and my friends will come in sometimes. Friends that I admire, friends that I like, they'll come in and they'll say, oh, I didn't have time to research. Who should I vote for? And I always tell them, I can't talk about it inside of the voting. You should have called me yesterday.
Right. So I want to pause just for a second to tell the people that are watching that we're going to be talking about what's going on in the schools. We're going to be talking about the books that are in the schools. So I don't want them to disconnect just because we're going to talk about politics. I want them to hang in there. I do want to talk about what we're talking about right now because a lot of Christians, but I want them to know we're going to be talking about some issues that may not seem political, but are.
Oh, amen.
So a lot of the church, some statistics that we heard that week we were out there in Fredericksburg were that a lot of the church doesn't have a biblical worldview. So that might be another reason why they don't rise up, is because they think just the same way as the world does.
Well, also, think about it this way. Everything I look at is about libraries and books. And so I'll say that the American Library Association has been infiltrated, but not just them. Every organization in America has been infiltrated by Satan or people that are holding Satan's hand. Mm-hmm. And so that includes seminaries. Seminaries, I have belonged many years to the Methodist Church, but the Methodist Church not too long ago split. And two of the bishops in the Methodist Church in my conference in Texas, the Rio, Texas conference, they came and made videos, and they said, one of them said they did not believe in the Trinity. How can you be a bishop in a Christian church if you don't believe in the Trinity? That's like fundamental. That's the foundation of what we believe. And the other one said he did not believe in the virgin birth. So why have these people infiltrated and risen to positions of power?
I believe it's because a lot of the people in the church don't know enough.
Amen.
And I mean, these are the people that are supposed to be teaching us and instructing us. But I think in years past, in times past, people would study the word for themselves. They weren't solely dependent on their pastors or their preachers to tell them what the Bible said.
And not just that, but think of it this way. The Bible was what was used to teach children to read for much of our history. Up until 1960, when I think it was 62, taken out of school.
A lot of the colleges were just preaching institutes, preparing people to go preach the gospel, weren't they?
That's right.
Like Harvard.
They used to. Well, Harvard was named after a pastor, a Christian pastor. But nobody talks about that, and that's not what Harvard stands for now. But by the way, that's not what any college really, except for Hillsdale College, I think is the only one. My daughter graduated from Texas A&M and now is at medical school at Texas A&M, and very liberal, very non-God-seeking, God-loving mess. And so, listen, we were sleeping. We were paying taxes, educating our kids, working our jobs, paying, going to church, but we weren't paying attention. And the left, they have a concerted, persistent dedication to their beliefs. Mm-hmm. We don't necessarily have that much dedication to our belief.
No, we don't.
And we let the 10 Commandments be taken out. We let prayer be taken out of the school. We have failed. Now we have to work twice as hard to catch up.
Well, it's easy to take him out of the school and out of the workplace if he's not even in the church most of the time.
Amen.
If a preacher gets up and talks about abortion or homosexuality or premarital sex or anything like that, you'll get people getting up and walking out of a church. And these are some of the fundamental principles and beliefs of a church that clashes with our culture and with our world and society. But if you don't have the church on board with the Bible, it's going to be very difficult to do God's work on this earth. But nevertheless, we're trying to change that, and we're being very strategic, I believe. Churches are beginning to move into a strategic posture to get into the community. And that's exactly what you're doing. When I met you, we were at this place and we were having lunch, and you had told me that you go into the schools and look at the books. So I'm trying to eat my sandwich, and you open a book right in front of me.
Hey.
That was straight up pornography. And I didn't know which way to turn. There was pastors around me, and
it's embarrassing, isn't it?
It is very embarrassing.
Think about it this way. What do you think it does to children's brains?
Mm-hmm.
Unformed, not fully formed brains of children. Mm-hmm. Seeing these images that our tax dollars are paying for.
What does it do? What do you know some of the effects that causes?
I don't know if you know what Texas Public Policy Foundation is, but TPPF compiled for me all of the research of the effects of pornography on the brain. And it's very damning, the evidence. However, they have never done, and no research has ever been done on the effects of pornography on an immature brain of a child. Because who would volunteer their child for this research? And so it's only been done on adult brains. And even then, pornography, up until pornography was measured as an addiction, as a substance of addiction, the most addictive substance ever studied was crack cocaine. And a crack cocaine high, people, you see them in the streets and they're shaking, and, you can tell that they have some addiction to something. And it lasts 52 minutes. Wow. So you wonder, why can't they make it? Why at work are they snorting in the bathroom, or why are they injecting stuff? Or they cannot wait. Okay? But think about the same thing with pornography. How many times do we see teachers busted at school for looking at pornography? Coaches, principals, whomever, or police officers, or just anybody.
Anybody, yeah.
And don't you ever wonder, why don't you just wait until you get home? Well, they cannot. And I'm here to tell you that pornography, the high from pornography, lasts 38 minutes. It is the most addictive substance that's ever been tracked, and we are pushing it on our children. And another thing, children, when we are sending our children out addicted to porn, they will never have a normal sexual relationship ever, because their identity, their idea of what normal sex is like is very skewed. Mm-hmm. It's distorted. It's warped. And so I always often tell people to watch Ted Bundy's final interview before he was executed. So Ted Bundy was famous for raping and killing hundreds of girls. But he talks about Dr. James Dobson from Focus on the Family interviewed him the night before he was executed, early the next day. And he tells Dr. James Dobson in the interview that he began seeing porn. He found a magazine in his neighbor's trash. And so he began looking at that magazine over and over and over. For a long time, he said, it gave me the high I needed. But after a while, and I can't remember the timeline, but he said it didn't work anymore. So he graduated to what he called hardcore porn. And that worked for a while. But then after a while, not even that worked. And so he began kidnapping, raping, killing girls. And he talks about in this interview how there are millions of Ted Bundys running around in America now. And he was executed, I think, in 1989, so a long time ago. And he talks about the movies, and I can't remember, maybe he mentions books. Maybe I just dreamed it. But he does talk about how societal influences have denigrated so badly that there can't help but be millions of Ted Bundys running around right now in society. Shocking.
Yeah.
And so I tell school boards this.
And that's why there's been an increase of human trafficking, sex trafficking, to fill that high
That's
that you
right.
need, that addiction that is running rampant in the United States.
Yes,
I
we are
believe
the
that we're
largest
consumers. Yeah.
Yes.
What does that say about our country?
Well, I will tell you that the pulpit is the solution. Jesus is the solution to every ailment
Amen.
and every ill ever. But pastors, and I'm not talking about you because you're obviously very engaged, but so many of them don't want to touch on the controversial topics. By the way, pornography is a controversial topic because I listened to the Billy Graham channel, and I was hearing an episode that he did a few days ago. Not him, but it's recorded from history, and it was from like 1981. But he said that he did a survey in his church, and 70% of the men said they were addicted to porn. And that was like 25 years ago. So, or it's longer than that now. But can you imagine? And there's really never been an approach, I guess, for a pastor to sit down with constituents and discuss this. But I think also, small groups, Bible studies, all of these things where you have accountability, you have a partner, and you have to, and by the way, this is for any sin. Pornography is not the only sin, right? I mean, my sin of judging people who provide books to children, it's the same.
Satan does his best work in the shadows.
Oh, amen.
Where people are hiding things. David said, "He who hides his sin will not prosper." He doesn't say he who sins. He says he who hides it. And I believe that when people try to pretend that they're okay, that they pretend that they're good Christians, in the dark places, the enemy is tearing them apart, because there has to be a confession before God concerning those things, a transparency, not necessarily to people all the time, but to God. And people are having a hard time, and they keep silent about what they're doing in the shadows. I mean, how many times have we not heard things come up about this person, that person, that it's hard to believe that they were engaging in that. It shouldn't be to anybody's surprise, because that's where the enemy does his best work, in private places.
Well, and think about this. You need to confess to God and repent and turn away from your sin. And confessing to God should be easy. He already knows all of our sin, and even more than we know. And so it should be simple, but we don't do it. We pretend, we scales over the eyes. That's
So our country, like you said, it leads in sex trafficking and human trafficking. I got the blessing of visiting Jerusalem, or Israel, back in 2015 and 2019. And on one of those trips, we were driving through Jerusalem, and there was children everywhere outside, just walking around by themselves, young children. And I'm like, why are all these children just walking around alone, or together in, little pairs? And the guide said, well, everybody watches out for everybody else's children. And I said, our country has just gone down so badly down the tubes that we cannot allow our kids to be outside by themselves, because they will be either abducted or abused, or someone will expose themselves to them. It's very dangerous to do what I used to do when I was a kid, is be out in the neighborhoods.
riding your
all
bike.
day.
That's right.
Yeah, all day. I mean, blocks down from our home, just by ourselves. We can't do that anymore, because that addiction you talked about just increases, and they push the line, push the boundaries, and they try to get more and more satisfaction. And now they're reaching into our schools.
Yes. Interestingly enough, in Llano, I'm from Llano, so I always pick on Llano because I can. But there was a survey that supposedly every high school gave to their students. And one of the questions on this survey, and there's a lot of surveys that get done, a lot of parents are trying to opt out of the surveys, because you should not be saying Do your parents have financial problems? Do your parents have sex? I mean, those are not, the school does not need to be discussing that with your child. But this one survey had a bunch of terrible questions. But one question, get this. The question was, how many times a week do you have sex? Okay, this is for 14 to 18-year-olds. And the choices were 0 to 1, 2 to 5, 6 to 15, 16 to 30, 30 plus, or more than 50. So think about this. Like you and me, we would say, well, that's not going to happen. But a child, they are looking around at their friends saying, wow, I mean, they wouldn't put more than 50 as a choice if no one ever picked it. They wouldn't put these choices. And so it's this erosion of morality that Satan has his fingers wrapped all in, and many people are going along with it. They're not fighting it. I every time I go speak, I tell people, we're all holding a hand. I'm holding Jesus' hand. And the reason I know that is because the Bible tells us you will have flaming arrows and fiery darts, right? And so if you are holding Jesus' hand, if your life is perfect, no money problems, no health problems, no problems with your work, no problems with your children, just nothing. You need to reevaluate whose hand you're holding. Because when I used to be a Sunday Christian. I went to church every Sunday faithfully, right? And I would tell God, okay, God, I'll see you next Sunday. Have a great week, because our pastors are not saying that living for Jesus means every minute of every day. I used to think, what does pray without ceasing mean? I mean, like, who could do that? Well, no, I do that. But in order to get there, I had to get sued. That's scary, right? And then I got sued again, so 2 lawsuits. And but when you're having those kind of issues, you can lean into Jesus, and you can learn and grow and sanctify.
Yeah. What were you getting sued for?
For removing 17 books. Not me. I didn't do it, but I did give the Llano County judge and the commissioners a list of books that look just like these. In fact, this is one of them. Your favorite?
That's the one you...
That was one of the ones. And so I gave the commissioner's court a list of bad books that were in our children's section in the Llano County Public Library. And 7 people who live in Llano kept going to the commissioner's court saying, put the books back. The commissioners went and moved them from the children eye level in the children's section. There were bean bags right in front of these books. Look at this book. It looks very
innocent.
There's pictures of people, but no nudity. And I mean, I was a 12-year-old. This is a 12-year-old book of the year in 2020.
The 12-year-old book of the year.
This is written for 12-year-olds. So is this one. They're all the ones on my here are. I usually have more books, but I'm actually doing a series with Texas Scorecard in Fort Worth. And so we're doing these videos about how to find bad books, what to look for, what to do when you find it. And so most of my books are in Fort Worth right now. But the judge and the commissioners went in and they looked at the books and they removed 17 books from the kids section. Literally, down, so comfortable and cozy, sitting right in front of them, bean bags. And they moved them to eye level in the adult section, about 25 feet away. And these people kept going in to the commissioner's court saying, we're going to sue you if you don't put the books back. What I have learned is that this is a nationwide tactic. Threaten. We're actually the first library in all of America that actually was sued for doing the right thing.
Wow.
And this is where it comes from. We're supposed to occupy. And we are supposed to occupy, not wavering in the corner, fearing, what if someone sues me? And I have school boards tell me that all the time. Well, we're afraid of getting sued. And I say, oh, okay, I understand. So how many children are you willing to sacrifice on the altar of fear? And they're like, well, that's not that easy. That's not the question. No, that is the question.
They did that here in Corpus. They had to fight to get those books moved. They weren't trying to get them out of the library. They were trying to move them from the children's section to the adult section.
That's right.
And they had to fight to do that. So it is obviously intentional. This is not just, we just decided to put them there. No, it's very intentional.
I'll tell you, this book, I can tell you where I found it. I have a list of, I only went from A to L because I didn't have time to do any more. But let me read this to you because I can't remember if I showed you. But this book is Random House Children's Books, 2022 Book of the Year.
So should we say parents are watching with their children? They should put their children to the other room maybe right now?
In a moment, but not yet.
Okay.
This, I want the parents to hear it.
Okay.
And on the publisher's page, okay, where the publisher, the editor, all that stuff is listed, this is what it says. This is very demonic, and it should open your eyes like, wow, why in the world is that necessary? The authors and publisher expressly disclaim responsibility for any adverse effects that may result from the use or application of the information contained in this book. It's like, Roundup, right? When
a disclaimer from the publisher, like,
it's a disclaimer.
Don't come after me.
For any adverse effects which may result to your child if they read and use this book. Wow, that's shocking.
And what does it say up top of the title?
The Teen's Guide to Sex, Relationships, and Being a Human. This is a very popular book. I found it in hundreds of libraries. I gave it to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick last session. I had a meeting with him and I said, I need to talk to you about this book. And he's like, this is terrible. So he asked me, can you bring me 31 copies? There's 31 senators in Texas. I don't know if you know that. And there's 150 representatives. And that was because when Texas was formed, they said they wanted to get 31 senators after Proverbs and 150 representatives after Psalms. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it is.
And so I took him 31 books. He gave one to each senator. And we've passed some good legislation. It's never enough because our minds are not warped by Satan and satanic influences. And so we think very clearly, okay, we want a law that does this, and we get that law. But Satan just goes right around it, and so it's a never-ending process. But
So bills are passed, laws are passed, and they still are looking for loopholes to be able to put this garbage in front of our children. So it's very intentional and aggressive. Correct?
Well, so yes. So I got sued in April of 2022 in Llano.
Who did the suing, by the way?
7 people who live in Llano County. And one of them has 2 children, 10 and I think 4 now, maybe 5. Small children, right? And you would think that she would not want this stuff, but she has now become she's gotten a master's degree in library science, and she's been applying at the Llano ISD to be a librarian. They have not hired her because they're already terrified of just me. So they're not hiring her. They didn't this time. But can you imagine? I mean, like her, there are people, librarians in every school district. Mm-hmm. They are. I've been to 158 school districts. I've spoken at many of them, their school board meetings. Sometimes I've had private meetings. Like recently I was in Lubbock and I met with the assistant superintendent and a library acquisition person, and they told me, oh yeah, these books are here, but you have one opinion, but there are other people with different opinions and we have to value everyone's opinion. And I said, well, their opinions are wrong because this content is not. And then I was reading, one of the books that they had, and they're like, please stop reading. It's making me very uncomfortable. And I said, yes. And we are grown adults. Imagine what it does to the child, the child's brain. And so, one of the easiest things that I go after now in I travel with a group of pastors, and the pastors stand up and read porn to the school boards. It's shocking. And I Pastor Richard Vegas from Houston, and he came into San Antonio, and I had some other pastors, meet me there. But he brought a man with him, a young man, and I had never met him before. His name is David Stokely, and he was in prison for 10 years. And so I'm asking him, okay, what are you comfortable reading? Because, by the way, it's not all about sexually explicit content. We have books that teach kids that there is an indetectable way to kill your diabetic parents, and you can get away with murder. Okay, so how many children have diabetic parents? Probably a lot. Why are we buying this? The book is called Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls. Why are we buying a book with the title Suicide Notes? We have a, let me see. Oh, you have it. Yes, you do. In Robstown. There's a series of books called Assassination Classroom. Every book, there's 21 volumes. You only have 18. But every volume, only 18 of the 21. But every one of the volumes has either a teacher who brings a knife or a gun and kills her students, or a student who brings a knife or a gun and kills other students and his teacher. Every volume. And so why would we buy books with my tax dollars called Assassination Classroom and glorify that? You have a book, one of your, Robstown again. Robstown, you got to do better. And Cal Allen also has it. There's a book called Boy Toy.
Self-explanatory.
Self-explanatory. But guess what it's about? It's about a 6th grade teacher who begins grooming and having a sexual relationship with one of her 12-year-old students. Now, I don't know about you, but every single week I see at least one school district who has another teacher or administrator busted for having a sexual relationship with their students. What are we doing? Why are we providing books like this? One of the lines in that book is the teacher gives to the little boy, here, let me give you the answers to the homework so you can make A's. I don't want you to fall behind, because they spend all the time together having sex, not tutoring. Well, what do you think maybe some 12-year-old kids would think about? Wow, I would like the free answers and I would like A's, because their brains do not process the way ours do. They don't have enough information. They don't have enough experience in life. And so we're buying these books. So back to David Stokely, I asked him, what do you want to read about? You want to read about suicide? You want to read about, and he said, I've been in prison 10 years. I can read anything. So I said, oh, great. Because some pastors, would rather not read really graphic sex. Yeah. So I gave him one of the worst books. And he got up to read, and there were about 200 people in the audience. This was at one of the San Antonio schools. I don't remember which district. And he began to read, and he read about 3 sentences of the book report I gave him, and he began to weep. And the entire room was dead silent as he wept into the microphone. And it took him a second, but he gathered himself back up, and he apologized to the school board, and he said, forgive me. I have been 10 years in prison. And these books are prohibited to prisoners in Texas. And I'm shocked and saddened that I have to stand in front of you and ask, please take these off the shelf so children do not get harmed. And so, of course, I'm taking notes. And when it was over, he apologized and he said, I'm so sorry. And I said, no, you were the most impactful speaker tonight. Thank you for coming. Tell me about the book list. And so he told me that they have a book list. And so I immediately called, my senator is Pete Flores, and Pete is the chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee, coincidentally. It's not coincidence. God incidents. And so I said, Pete, I need this list. And he said, I've never heard of it. And I said, me either, but it exists. I need it. 24 hours later, I had the list. So that list from the criminal justice has 10,800 books on it. Think about it this way. They have 5 prongs of things that they do not allow their prisoners to read or research. Topography, because if someone broke out of prison, they could research if there was a cave nearby or, so no topography in Texas. Okay, I don't care about topography. Not any book about how to make bombs.
Right.
Well, I don't want high schools to have bomb making materials either, but that's not what I focus on. But the thing I do focus on and that they prohibit is any graphic illegal sex act. Okay? So illegal sex acts, rape, incest, sex with dead bodies, sex with animals. We have books in Texas schools that have all 4 of those things. We have books with sex with animals. We have books sex with dead bodies. We have almost every book has rape, and we have tons of incest. In fact, you have a book about incest that is on the criminal justice list. I actually got it added.
In Robstown?
No, all 3 schools. Robstown, Alice, and Cal Allen were the 3 that I looked at. And so I can read you a couple of excerpts. You'll be shocked.
Go ahead.
Okay, now, mom and dad, you got to take your kids out. And I would say 18, 17 or under 18. So this book is called Identical, and it's by an author named Ellen Hopkins. She writes very bad books, and she's very popular. And so almost no school that I've been in has none of her books. Almost none of them. Almost every, let me say it differently. Almost every school that I've been into
has her books.
And one of them is called Triangles, and it's about a sex triangle, having sex with more than one person. And very shocking, the content of that one. I found it in many schools. But this book is on the criminal justice list. This is about 2 9-year-old girls. It's called Identical. 2 9-year-old girls, twin girls, whose father grooms and molests one of them. And the other one, it's written from the other one's point of view. She hides in the closet because they share a bedroom. And so she's always hiding in the closet watching what her dad does to her sister, to her twin sister. And so, I only bring one quote, but the entire book is so devastatingly horrible that, and it is in all 3 of your schools. So this is on page 393. Kaylee was used to Daddy's visits, but that night she too felt something different in the air. Rage, lust, sorrow, perversion. There was nothing gentle about how he threw back the covers. Already naked, he pushed Kaylee roughly to one side, flopped beside her. I could tell she was afraid. This was not her daddy. This was a demon. His evil was hard and sharp as a steel blade, ready to slice into her. And it did. His attack was brutal, bloody, wordless, except for vicious, shut the fuck up at her pitiful scream. A please, please, no, Daddy, no, she screamed. It hurts. Oh, I cowered, sick at the sight, but unable to divorce myself from this horror. I felt Kaylee's pain, and when Daddy was done and she cried, I cried too. So think about 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds. This is in some junior highs too, but 14 is what age most children get to high school. Why are we providing topics of such perverted and demonic content with tax dollars to our children? And, Robstown has 7 books that are on the criminal justice list that I know about. Alice has 5. Cal Allen has 11. 9. So what I go after first when I talk to school boards is this content. is very simple. Why do you have content that is prohibited to the minds of hardened criminals? Why are you making that content accessible to children, to minors in your care? Parents are trusting you, right? And so, y'all, let me see if I have.
And those are books that involve illegal acts, correct? The ones that are on the list. But I see a whole other list of books that may not be illegal, but they're very graphic. Is that correct?
Yes. That is so correct. And here's the thing. I doubt if your listeners understand what's in the books, but if they'll stick with me, I can read some. There's a book that is in almost so many schools. I found it in hundreds of schools, maybe thousands of schools. It's called A Court of Silver Flames. Let me see where it is. It's in Robstown. We got to do better, Robstown. It's in Alice also. So it's a series of 5 books. And Robstown has all 5. Alice has all 5. Calallen only has 4. And part of the reason is because I've been going around reading this book so much that some schools hear about it and they take off this book. But the others are equally bad. It just happens to be the one that's on my list. It's called A Court of Silver Flames. Parents, if your children are in the room, please take them out. A Court of Silver Flames. It's by another very popular author named Sarah J. Maas, written for 12-year-old children. Page 288. His cock was enormous, beautiful and hard and absolutely enormous. Her mouth dried out, every plan she'd had requiring sudden reassessment. There was no way he would fit entirely in her mouth, perhaps no way he would even fit in her body. But she sure as hell wanted to try. She wanted him undone, wanted him grabbing her head and fucking her mouth as hard as he wished. It was torture, a special kind of torture, to have Nesta kneeling before him with his cock in her mouth and hand and not be able to roar with pleasure. But then she stared at him through her lashes, and the sight of her with his cock between her lips snapped something. She took him deep and moaned so loudly it reverberated along his cock and straight into his balls. Cashin fucked her mouth, and her moaning had him deciding he would fuck the rest of her too.
That's in our schools.
Yes,
All of
Robstown and Alice. And this particular one is not in Calallen, but the other 4 in the series, which are equal. I mean, I could read you some quotes from the other ones. Mm-hmm. They're all the same.
Yeah, we get the point.
You get the point. Mm-hmm. No, it's shocking. It's criminal. This should be criminal for people to provide this content to children. But parents, either they just don't know.
They don't know. You know, the scripture says that we are to train up a child in the way that they should go.
They will not depart from it.
Parents have surrendered their kids over to
school,
public school system that has leftist and liberal and demonic influence.
100%.
And we give them over to them for 8 hours a day.
Think about it this way. They spend more time awake with their teachers than they do with their parents. Mm-hmm. And these teachers, you know, it used to be that teachers were very good people. I grew up in Banquetti, so I'm very, very close to Robstown. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to graduate from high school there, but I didn't. We moved to the Valley. And, you know, my teachers were good people. I'm 58. That era is gone. There are some good teachers in schools, but by and large, the vast majority of teachers have been indoctrinated, scales over the eyes. Mm-hmm. And they believe that kids need this. They argue with me.
I was going to say, what percentage of the teachers do you believe know that this stuff is in their libraries?
Well, people ask me that a lot, and of course I have no way of knowing. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you this, if I was a teacher or a librarian, and you're hearing this stuff on the news all the time, right? So one of the books that, this one, All Boys Aren't Blue, Senator Kennedy from Louisiana You know who he is, the senator from
Yes.
Louisiana. He has a funny accent.
Yes.
He read this book into the Senate congressional hearing. It's vile. It's on the criminal justice list, prohibited to prisoners because of the rape in it. And he read some of it into the congressional hearing, and people are like shocked. Okay, but that book is in thousands of schools, including Cal Allen. And so if you only want to know, if you're a teacher or a librarian in any school in the whole state of Texas, there's 1,200 school districts. There's 9,000 campuses. If you're a teacher on one of those campuses, wouldn't you look when you hear Senator Kennedy reading? Would you say, wow, maybe I should check. I wonder if we have that. I'm sure we don't. I thought we didn't. This book is still in Llano High School. They refused to move it. But guess what? I'm going back at them on September 1st because now we have new legislation. Angela Paxton's bill, SB 13, I helped her write it. I, gave her so much information. It's hard to argue with information. I carry this stuff with me, and people see me. I mean, Llano is a town of 3,000 people. It's very small. The whole county has less than 19,000 people. So we see everybody everywhere we go. And they always say, oh, you're banning books. You want censorship. No, I don't believe in censorship. Well, why do you want to take out books? Oh, because I believe in protecting children. This is not a censorship issue. This is a criminal issue of content that harms the brains of children. And I don't want my tax dollars spent on it.
What do you think is behind it?
Satan.
Like I said earlier, it's intentional. Things like this don't just happen, and they don't fight you when you're trying to come against it. So what's behind it? What's the agenda? Who is behind it? Obviously, it's Satan, but what is the mentality? What is the group that is really trying to push this? And what outcome are they trying to achieve?
Well, I don't have information. I have speculation, so I can speculate.
Okay.
The reason I got sued in Llano was because I was on the library advisory board. The judge in Llano knew that I cared about this issue because I kept talking about it all over town, so he put me on the library advisory board. And so while I was on the library advisory board, which was only, I'm still technically on it, but because we're in the lawsuit, we have not met for 3 years, over 3 years. But I learned that the American Library Association has 2 lists that they email to all libraries that are members. So the American Library Association is like the umbrella. And then each state has a library association. So the American Library Association tells each state, do this, and then each of those states do it. So 92% of libraries in America belong to the Texas Library Association. They pay dues, they get no benefits, but they do get a book list. They get 2 book lists. One goes out monthly and one goes out quarterly. And these book lists, every one of these books, this is just like highly acclaimed. This was, I told you, the 2022 Book of the Year. All of these books are acclaimed, award-winning. They're on their must-read for young teens list. So they have these lists that go out. So for a library, like in Llano County, what we determined was that the list comes into your inbox and it says, I even read some of them. They say things like, these new literary masterpieces, no library is complete without them. So what does a librarian want to do? Well,
Gotta have them.
Order them, right? So that the library is complete. This is how it happens. And so you click a button and, a week later or 2 weeks later or whenever, the books come and you shelve them. That's why every school has these books. Every school library, every public library. The public libraries are a little different because they can have the books, but they should not have these books
The children's area.
in an area that is accessible to children. I had a great bill this session for that. It passed the House, got stuck in the Senate. So we will go after it again next session. But
What was the bill?
it was, trying to remember the number, HB 3225. Daniel Alders wrote it. He's from Tyler. And Brian Hughes was the senator that sponsored it in the Senate. And basically what it says, the attorney who's defending me and Llano County in our lawsuit, he helped write it. It was really good. It just says that if you get caught with, for example, this book in the children's section of a public library, you will have a $10,000 fine per book. So guess what? They're going to make sure that they're not in the children's section.
Right.
You should have heard all the vitriol. I went and testified, I think, 38 times this session at the Capitol. I mean, it's crazy. The people that testified, kids need this.
What was their argument? Why did the kids need it?
They need it because they just say that the kids need it. They don't say why. And they say that we are preventing them from having it because we agree with book censorship. We're book censors. Book censorship started in Nazi Germany, and they go how we're going to be like Hitler. I mean, they probably think that anyway. But I do not care what people think about me. I only care what Jesus thinks about me.
Did you have people testifying on your behalf?
Of course, more, way more, because I have pastors all over the state. And do you know Pastor John Amanchukwu? He's the book burning pastor.
No, I don't know.
Okay, he's from North Carolina. And if you follow him on X or whatever, you know, I don't do social media, but he's on most platforms. He's a black man. He is 6'7". He was in the NFL, and after the NFL, you know, after he stopped playing football, he became a pastor, and he found these books, and he was shocked, and so he goes all around America, and he reads. He's come to Llano and read to Llano School Board, and they said, "Oh, we can't let you read. I mean, that's terrible. It's so vile." And he's like, I am a black man in America. I have a right. You white men have no right to tell me to shut up. So I'm going to read. And then they just shut up. It was fantastic. Because like when I go read, they tell me I'm not allowed to read. I'm not allowed to say any word that's profane or indecent. And I'm like, well, I know. I agree. It's profanity. It's in our library. Why are you clinging to it?
So what is your assumption that what are they trying to accomplish with this? Because an argument can be made, well, they can get it on their phone, they can get it anywhere else. But to me, there's obviously a reason why the enemy fights so bad to have it in the schools. So there is a purpose for it that can only be accomplished if it's in the schools. What do you think that they're trying to do with that?
Well, if you look at society as a whole, the whole impact of everything that Satan does is to destroy the family. The family, the male, the man, the husband is the head of the family, the father. Satan wants the head cut off of the father. And for years, even when I was growing up, it was always, oh, we don't need men. We don't need men. We're, you know, the sexual revolution and all this stuff. And I wanted a man to open my door. I wanted a man to pay for my dinner. I wanted a man to be manly, right? Not to be feminine.
Right.
And so it's been this erosion for many years. But I think the ultimate goal is just to destroy the family because...
Yeah. Could it be to normalize it? You know, because I think if kids see it out here in the streets and their phones and stuff like that, they still feel like that's not normal, it's not acceptable. But when they see it in a school setting,
that's right,
it becomes more common, more normalized, where they feel like, oh, this is acceptable. It wouldn't be, if it wasn't, it wouldn't be in the school.
And not just that, but the librarians themselves in many schools, they do displays with all of these books, especially like leading up to Pride Month. You know, we have books. I have a book called Making a Baby for 4-year-olds. I did not look in your elementaries. School. I mean, younger ages. I only look in the high schools. But it has a picture of a fully nude black man facing the camera, a fully nude white man, his profile facing the camera, so you can see all the body, they are together in a shower with a 2-year-old boy who's fully naked. So fathers take baths with their children. I mean, they do, and so do mothers. But never, ever would you have 2 fully naked men together with a 2-year-old child. And the most demonic part is that off to the side, it's like in a shower room, or something, locker room. There's a bench and a little girl's watching them. And so what's the purpose? It's to erode morality, to become so desensitized to nudity and graphic sex acts that it's not shocking anymore, that you accept it. People ask me all the time, well, why are you going after books? Kids have cell phones. And I said, yes, I'm so grateful that God told me to go after the books and not the cell phones. That's harder, right? Yeah. That's harder. When I was in Lubbock recently, the lady told me to stop reading. And then she said, I know that you do what you do. I just have a piece of advice. Don't read the books. It's just so ugly and degrading. You shouldn't read the books. And I said, well, thank you for sharing that with me. Jesus Christ tells me otherwise. And so I have to follow what he tells me. But I appreciate it.
It'll never catch your attention if you don't read it.
People don't know. They have no idea.
What advice would you give to parents who are watching and who maybe are shocked by what they're hearing tonight and on this podcast? What steps should they take? And I guess that should include pastors as well, anybody listening.
So I'll tell your listeners the same thing I tell everyone. Do not trust the libraries. Do not send your children into the libraries. And the school libraries, that's different because many kids have to go, a certain amount of times a week or whatever to the library. There is content that is so harmful that you may never be able to eradicate the effects of it if they're consuming these books. There's a book in Robstown also I wanted to tell you about. It's called What Girls Are Made Of by Elena K. Arnold. I think it's only in Robstown. It's about a girl having sex with Jesus. And there's 2 books that I have found that describe having sex with Jesus, but you only have one in these, 3. Listen to me. Satan is after our children.
Yeah.
And so your listeners need to know Satan is after your children.
I would go as far as telling them to pull them out.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I would not send, I'm 58, so I don't have any young children.
My brother and sister-in-law are starting a Christian academy, Century Christian Academy here.
Praise God.
So some of our church children are getting ready to attend that. And I would recommend it. I used to think, well, they got to get the experience of being around. Those days are gone. I recommend people pulling their children out of the public school districts and into private or Christian academies. Nothing's perfect. But when you deliberately put your child in that kind of harm's way and in that environment, then it's on you. Like there are options and there are alternatives to believers and how they train up their child. And I think that they need to get a hold of the reins of how their children are being trained.
That is for sure. And the other thing to think about is even colleges. Texas A&M, it is so liberal now. I mean, I was thrilled. My daughter wanted to go there. I went to Sul Ross State University in Alpine, so I didn't go to A&M, and neither did my husband, but my daughter always wanted to go there. And she has excelled there and succeeded. She's in their medical school now. But during the month of June, they celebrate Draggy Land because it's called Aggie Land. If you've ever been to A&M on their water tower, it's Aggie Land. But for the month of June, they added DR, so it's Draggy Land. And they,
Charlie Kirk says, don't go to college.
That's right.
Unless you're going to be a doctor or attorney or stuff like that.
That's exactly where I was going with this. So when people are saying, well, I'm not going to have money to send my child to a Christian school, well, I say take the money that you were going to spend on college and spend it on a good foundational education as a 12 to 18 or whatever age. Pull your kids out and do something different, because our sacrifice is worth their nurturing, because they're just, listen, I mean, I used to not be so anti-establishment schools, but like I said, I've been to 158 school boards. I do have some that I've succeeded. Canyon ISD up in close to Lubbock, up in the Panhandle, they took out about 227 books, and they made a list of each book that they found in their system. And they made a list where it was, the book name, the author, where it was, such and such high school, because they have more than one, which elementary or whatever. And then the reason, because they put a reason, and the reason they're so bold, it said sexually explicit content, inappropriate for children. Mm-hmm. Praise God.
Yeah, I think Killallen has started taking out some books. I doubt they've taken them all out.
Well, they haven't, because I checked a couple days ago.
Okay, well, they perhaps pulled some out to appease. Some of our pastors have been going in there. So
I'll come with you.
Okay.
I'll bring a group.
Okay, I'll talk to our pastor groups and see what we can do. Nobody's covering Robstown, so I'll try to get them to help me cover the Robstown area.
I'll come to Robstown.
Yeah,
I'll come to Alice, Robstown, Banquetti, Callallen, Corpus, wherever.
Yeah.
I go all over. That's all I do.
All right.
Every month I'm at least one school board all across Texas, and I've gone to 10 other states. Listen.
How many school districts do we have in Texas?
1,200.
1,200, okay. And you've only covered 158.
I know. People are like, wow, that's so many. I'm like, barely 10%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I'm just, I hit 10% and now I'm trying to get to 20.
Yeah, we need help.
We need help. And the problem is, even the school boards, even in Llano, I mean, we are rural America, dear capital of Texas, Cooper's Barbecue, very, very conservative, 89% for Trump the last election, very conservative. But we still have books. Mm-hmm. We have books that they are clinging to. This one on the criminal justice list.
And the reason is that these mindsets are the ones that launch out into the civic arena, into school boards, into city councils, while the church is not getting
complacent
involved. Yeah.
And being quiet, being nice.
Yeah.
Jesus was not nice. That word nice is not in the Bible.
Yeah. So I just want to encourage everybody out there to get more active, get involved. I want to thank you, Bonnie, for driving all the way over here from Llano, Texas. How far is it?
4 hours.
4 hours just to come and sit with me and discuss this issue. That's the only reason you drove over here.
It was, yes, and I'm going back in the morning. Yeah. But here's the thing. When Jesus asked me to do this, I told him that if he would open doors, I would walk through them. Mm-hmm. And so the answer is always yes.
Yes.
When someone calls and says, can you come to my school board, or can you come to my podcast, or whatever, the answer is always yes. Because there may be just one parent that hears and suddenly understands, and one more child that's protected.
Yeah.
And so that's what this is all about. People, everybody makes excuses. And some people say, well, my kids are in private school. They're not in public school. And then I say, this is in the public libraries. And many homeschooled kids go to public libraries. But even if it isn't, even if your kid never sees it, guess what? They are going to grow up and they're going to associate with the public school kids. Mm-hmm. They may marry them. They may be a partner in some business with them. They may work for them.
That's right.
And so this is an issue that everyone needs to understand, and let's link shields and let's fight. And
I'm glad we got to share on the podcast. The podcast is an unusual means that sometimes is able to go under the radar to minister to people. So again, I think, and we prayed before we began our conversation so that it could be impacting. So we're praying that it is impacting. So Bonnie Wallace, thank you for joining me in the den.
It was my
It's
pleasure.
been eye-opening.
That's my job.
It's been a little nerve-wracking just to listen to that. Made me sweat a little bit. I didn't know what all you were going to say.
It should.
But
Well,
it has to be said.
let me say one other thing that I didn't mention, but I have books, several. One of them has 75 QR codes. So kids love QR codes. Like, I don't like it. Mine never works quite right. I'm trying to figure out what to touch. But kids love them with their cell phones. One book called Trans Plus, you don't have it in any of these 3 schools, but it's in dozens of Texas schools. One QR code takes the kids to a sex shop to buy dildos, sex toys. One takes them to the nearest orgy. This is for 12-year-old children. One takes them to a video of other people having sex. 75 QR codes. I have another book called Jack of Hearts that tells kids to open a Grindr app on their phone, to get the Grindr app. So I was like, what's Grindr app? Grindr app is a homosexual app that you get on your phone, create, your profile or whatever, and you can hook up with people to have sex. Grindr app. So listen, Satan is using all of these new methods of technology to target the kids. And us as parents, we just have to be aware of all of it. And so my cautionary tale to everybody is don't trust books except the Bible. That's the book you can trust.
Amen. Once again, Bonnie Wallace, thank you for joining me in the den.
God bless you.
It's been a blessing.
Thank you. Proud of you. Keep it up. Keep fighting.
Thank you.